Okay, so this is 2 days later. The water is kind of cloudy, but because the tank hasn't been cycled for long, that is why the tank is still cloudy. But eventually it will clear up, and as you can see, the leaves are beginning to turn upwards towards the light. And sorry about the background, it's sunny outside. That's my algae eater, Chinese algae eater. This is from the back of the tank. As you can see, that's how my substrate looks like. It will eventually clear up. I'm not worried about it. It's kind of murky, but that's because the tank hasn't been cycled for very long. My understanding is that you're supposed to let the water cycle for at least a week or two. Eventually this will be a community fish tank which is full of tetras. So this is 24 hours, guys, later. Okay, so this is the third day of the aquarium setup, and it's looking good. It's actually less cloudy or murky. Basically this right here is just dirty aquarium. I'm gonna have to clean it later, but this is how it looks like. The water is getting clearer and clearer. This is the third day. I'm gonna have to create a carbon dioxide diffuser here so that I can aid the plant to grow. I picked that rock here. Well, I put that rock here because it looks like a skull, reminiscent of a skull. My niece picked it up from me at a river. So you can see the eye, the facial Pretty cool skull. But yeah, the water is getting clearer and clearer. That's because it's cycling, and hopefully there'll be some good bacteria in the filter to break down fish waste and whatever that is in the water. Okay, so today is February the 7th. This is the 6th day into this aquarium. I set it up 6 days ago, and I did it out of an emergency necessity, and I didn't let the nitrogen cycle, and so I was worried that the fishes might not thrive and that they might die due to the lack of nitrogen cycle. But as you can see, it turned out very well. And like my previous video, this substrate is comprised of kitty litter and gravel. And then I have live plants. And so as you can see, it's coming along very well. It's clear now. You can see that. The nitrogen cycle has taken its course with success. And I could say proudly that the fishes are alive. None of them died. And I'll show you where my CO2 maker is, or whatever you call that thing. I did some research on YouTube, and so I built my own little gadgets to manufacture carbon dioxide. This is a 2-liter bottle here. And inside of it is the same ingredient as other people. It's comprised of yeast and sugar. I didn't use baking soda. I didn't see any relevance in there. So as you can see, it's producing a pretty good amount of bubbles. And how I did this is, see that little tube right there? This is where the carbon dioxide is manufactured here, and it goes from here. It's manufactured here. It goes into this tube, goes in here, down here to this bottle here, and this bottle is used to count bubbles. And when the bubble comes out, it rises up, it travels to that hose right there, goes here into this valve here, and then it goes into my little power head there. And what's good about this power head is actually it's a filter, and it has an ultraviolet light inside where it kills germs and algae. So it's a plus device for me. I used this as a filter or initially. Once the water cleared, I used that. But I'm gonna use both filters. That's a Walmart filter for 12 bucks. And so it's coming along, and as you can see, the kitty litter that I use, it's actually holding up pretty well. I'm gonna do a review in about a week to see how my plants are faring, and so that's it. Okay, so this is the 7th day of my transplanted tank that I made for an emergency transplant thingy because my big tank was leaking. And as you can see, the water is clear. Those what looks like particles are diffused oxygen and carbon dioxide bubbles, and that's what it looks like. That if you look here, this is the substrate. See, the kitty litter still looks the same. It's in pretty good quality actually, and that's my Chinese algae eater. What I found is that if I don't place the gravel on top of the kitty litter, my giant algae eater, it's about 4 inches long, it's very active, and when it swims, it'll kick up the clay particle or mud, and it'll muddy the tank. So that is why it's important to put gravel on top of the clay, the kitty litter. If you don't do that, whenever that thing swims, it will muddy the water for you. So as you can see, it's pretty clear right now, and this is the 7th day. It was already clear like this on its 5th day, but I added some CO2 onto this tank. The CO2 is coming from that power head right here, which is which inside of the power head here, there's a filter right here where it sucks in the water. And in addition to that, there's a UV lamp inside of it to kill germs or algae, which is really good. Keeps the fish healthy. The fish is healthy. I've added some neons and white cloud onto my tank as well. They're very happy, as you can see there. And the neons, it's midnight, so I think they're tired, they're going to sleep. But my fishes are happy, as you can see. I don't know if I can see that. It's in there, right in the center of the screen is my glass cat. A very shy catfish. Love it. I used to have 4, but 2 died. Now I only have 2 left in the tank here. Yeah, but this is how my fish tank looks like. Okay, so today is the 22nd of February, and the tank is on its 3rd week, and this is probably going to be the last documentary that I'm doing on this tank. The reason is because I'm actually trying to document the cat litter as the substrate for this tank. And so, as you can see, the water is crystal clear. I've added some fishes in here. There are white clouds and there are neon tetras. And as you can see here, I've installed the CO2 generator. It's a homemade device made of yeast, sugar, and baking soda combination. I'll show you that later. And as you can see, the plants here are actually thriving. The camera isn't doing the best to show you the quality of the leaves, but it's way better than the first couple weeks that I've finished this tank. The reason is because the CO2 being diffused into the environment of the aquarium is actually helping the plants grow. Okay, so like for example this one right here, this plant right here, it's another Anubias family. As you can see there, it's really shiny. There's a sheen to it. And see this root right here in the middle of the screen here? It's actually growing at a rapid pace because of the CO2 being introduced to the ecosystem of the tank. And yeah, so like for example the leaves over here. Okay, that's a nice example. There's a lot of sheen coming out of the light because it's actually responding really well to the CO2 being inputted into the ecosystem. And then the root here, if you could see here, if I could focus on this, see that root is taking hold. That little bud, that's a root bud coming out of that main root. And so let's see, how do I do this? So the cat litter, this is part of the cat litter right here. This whole part right here is just cat litter, and that's the gravel. The way I'm doing this is, without the gravel here, I have a huge Chinese algae eater. And what my experience has been, that if I didn't have the gravel in here and just the cat litter by itself, whenever the Chinese algae eater swims, it'll kick up small particles of clay dust, and eventually it'll cloud up the tank. The gravel here acts like a barrier to prevent the giant algae eater, when it swims, it prevents the kicking up of the dust particle. So that's why I see, if you look here, the first couple days when I set up the aquarium, it was kind of murky, but as you can see, it's crystal clear. So the neons are halfway or on the other side of the tank. I'll show you. See. So they're actually a quarter way, 3/4 of the way from that point to this point, and that's the end of the tank. So as you can see, it's really clean. It's really it's actually crystal clear. So what I have here, that's a filter power head unit. Inside the filter here, if you could see, it's sort of like a slight glow coming from the bottom there, like right here. It has a UV light in here, so whatever it sucks in, the UV light will cook up the germs or the algae particle that goes in here, which gets blown out here. And then see that little thing right there? That's where my CO2 injection comes in, and that's why there's bubbles. See, that's my CO2 being injected into the tank. That little what looks like a waterfall thing is actually my Walmart filter, which I bought for $10, which is being sucked up and getting the water's being filtered up there as well. There's a charcoal cartridge up there. So this is the back of the tank. It looks really nice. See, the leaves here are very healthy. When I first put the leaves in here, they weren't really healthy. The reason was because I had taken them out due to the leakage of my other tank. And so it was out of the ground for gosh, about 4 months. It didn't have any ground to go into. But right now they're slowly coming back. And that's the reason why the leaves here, if you look, they're kind of torn because they were just floating around. That was my fault. The glass cat here, there's a couple glass cats in here. They're actually really enjoying the environment here. They're most active when I turn off the light. And this is my CO2 system. What I found out is, well, the solution in here consists of sugar, yeast, and baking soda. And I discovered why people put baking soda in here. And the reason is because if you don't put baking soda in here, the CO2 that comes out of this solution, it stinks. So the baking soda actually nullifies the smell. And as you can see, that's how much bubble is coming out of my system. If you want a lot of CO2 to be generated, add more yeast. But with that, you'll get an intensified generation of CO2. The downfall of it is that it'll run out of CO2 really, really fast because of the yeast. So I threw in a teaspoon of yeast, 2 cups of sugar, and about, not 2 cups, yeah, 2 cups of sugar, and it's been acting like this for a little bit over a week. So, and the constant bubble coming out of here is as a result of 1 teaspoon of yeast. If I were to put like a tablespoon of yeast, this thing would be bubbling. But the downfall of that is that this will run out really, really fast. And so, yeah, so this is my system. This is the last time I'll document this. And as you can see, the cat litter is pretty good. It hasn't mushed up because this cat litter is not the mushing type, if that's a word. And as you can see, there's like granules of cat litters. It looks just like gravel, and it hasn't mushed up. So I don't know if my camera can pick it up. Okay, there you can see the granules, just like the gravels. So it's a pretty good quality gravel. So that's just my last report for you guys.